Hey y'all, my name is Dr. Patrick Brown, and I'm going to be your instructor for Anatomy and Physiology 1 in what is going to be one of the most unprecedented fall semesters in the history of higher education in the United States. And I'll be honest, I really wanted us to have a normal semester and to be in person, but unfortunately, wishes don't always come true. With the continued community spread of COVID 19 in Washington County and in Northeast Tennessee, I have been strongly encouraged by the administration to do as much as I can in an online environment, and it's really for the safety and health and protection of you and your families. Due to physical distancing requirements, my classroom, where I would normally teach you guys, has had its capacity capped at about 20% of our course enrollment, which means that I could only have 1/5 of you in class at a time anyway, so you would really only come 7 or 8 times over the whole 15-week semester. And I'm a pretty smart guy, but I just couldn't figure out how to get you everything with only 7 hours of instruction. So I've moved all of the lecture class to online. But here's a big but. It's not going to be Zoom for 3 times a week, for an hour a time, 3 times a week. There are actually only 18 times through the whole semester that you're going to have to meet with me synchronously on Zoom. So this is going to be spread out from between now and Thanksgiving. And you might be asking, well, what's with the 18 days? Well, on those days, we are going to be learning using a learning technique known as process-oriented guided inquiry learning, or POGIL. This is a learning tool some of you may have seen in high school. It's very popular with chemistry, but it involves you working with a handful of classmates to work through some activities to help you better learn that really challenging content. So, things like how muscle contraction works and how nerve cells conduct an impulse and how electrochemistry works inside of the cells. Those are really challenging concepts, and I can't just take that information out of my head and put it in yours. So these activities are designed to give you the opportunity to kind of create these concepts on your own. And I'll tell you more about that when we have our first Zoom meeting on the first day of class. And you can also see in the attachment to the email that gave you the link to this video that I talk about POGIL just a little bit there too. You can always go to pogil.org and learn more about it there. But if you look on the library, or sorry, in the bookstore, at the bookstore's website, you'll see that a recommended course for this book is Anatomy and Physiology, A Guided Inquiry, and it was written by me. So I created all of these activities that we're going to do. This is actually a published book, but you don't have to buy it. I have electronic copies of every activity. If you want to have a paper copy in front of you and you plan on taking me for AMP1 and AMP2, it actually is less expensive to buy the book than to print all these out in color. But if you're going to be doing them on a tablet, or if you want to print your own out, or if you want to complete them in the Google Docs that I'm going to be providing you of these, then you do not have to buy that book. Okay, I'm not trying to make money on that. That's just an option that you have. And you might be thinking, ugh, group work. I hate group work. Why is he going to make us do group work? Well, the thing is, POGIL really works. If you do a Google Scholar search for POGIL and efficacy or POGIL effectiveness or whatever, you'll see lots of studies, hundreds of studies from across many disciplines that show how much better students learn through POGIL. And in my own experience, when I was doing just lecture only, my D to F ratio, so the number of students, the percentage that got a D or an F in AMP, was about 20%, which was still low. The national average is over 40%. This is one of the highest attrition courses in U.S. higher ed. So I thought I was doing pretty good with 20%, but after implementing POGIL in my AMP class, my DF rate in that class that was only AMP2 at an old school, but it went down to below 8%. And even at ETSU, where I have these large enrollments, in my old school, I had a maximum of 32 students in a class. Now I've got over 200. But even here with this large enrollment, my DF rate is still below 10%, so it's a quarter of the national average. In AMP2, the last 2 spring semesters, I've had fewer than 2% or less than 2% of the people who take that course get a D or an F in the course. So POGIL works really well, and it actually works pretty good in Zoom. There are actually some things about doing it in Zoom that work a little bit better than doing it in class, where because of our class size, we're normally in one of these like auditoriums where the seats are bolted to the floor and you've got this tiny little desk thing going on. So I think you're going to find it to be pretty rewarding. So those are the days that you have to come to Zoom during class. There's going to be like 19, I guess, counting the first day of class. So it's not too bad. Okay. All the other times, I will be in Zoom during our class time to help you with your homework, to help you with any other questions you may have, to help you get ready for your tests. What you're going to see when you get into D2L, which I'll talk about in a minute, is that I really do my best to provide you with everything you need to be successful and to learn this stuff well so that you can use it in not just your downstream classes but professionally as well. Okay, so the rest of the lecture stuff is going to be kind of asynchronous, meaning you don't have to be in class on Zoom at 11:30 or 12:35 whenever your class meets. I'll be there and you can come in and I'm glad to help you with anything, but those other days are going to be optional, and you'll see when you get into our D2L site that I've given you a calendar of kind of what's going on week by week, actually day by day. Okay, what will be in person still is lab, or at least half the labs. A lot of accrediting agencies, and really it's a lot of the degree programs that require A&P as a prerequisite will not take it if it was an online only lab. And I don't want you to, one, be held back because you have to retake A&P 1 because it was an online only lab. I'm not going to do that to you. It's worth it to me to come in and make sure we're doing that face to face. But also, there is something just downright mystical about holding a real human brain in your hands and knowing that you're holding an organ that used to contain all the thoughts and feelings and emotions and memories of another human being, or holding a real bone in your hand and knowing that this used to be in somebody's thigh and this allowed them to run and jump, and it's just, there's something irreplaceable about holding actual human remains and learning the anatomy from real three-dimensional objects. So for those things where that three-dimensionality is fundamental to learning its anatomy, so that would be the anatomy of the skeletal system, the anatomy of the muscular system, and the anatomy of the brain, we're going to do all that stuff in person. But because, again, of physical distancing requirements, I can only have half of you in the lab at once. So each week, you'll either come to lab in person and do one thing, or you will do an online exercise. So, for example, in week 1, Group A, so I'm going to divide each lab into an A and a B. Group A will come to lab and we're going to start learning about the skull and the bones, whereas Group B will do a laboratory exercise on regional anatomy and the terms for the different regions of the human body. And then the next week, Group B will come and do the skull lab in lab, and Group A will have the online lab to do. So each week you're either going to do an online laboratory exercise or you're going to come in and actually get to handle real physical specimens. So I think that's going to be really cool. I'm doing my best to get everything ready to have D2L open. I'm not going to have all the content in D2L on day 1. It's been a very busy summer and I have a lot of stuff to do. So everything that's necessary will be in D2L early next week, and I will continuously add content as we go. Finally, tests. So your lecture exams have always been on D2L, but you have two options with those. You can either take them in the testing center, and you'll have a 60-minute time limit, or you can take them at home, but unfortunately you'll have a 45-minute time limit there, and that's just to discourage you from being tempted to look up answers and stuff. The lab quizzes are all going to be entirely online, and you will have the opportunity to take them multiple times, because the way D2L works, spelling counts. So what I will do is give you the opportunity to retake your lab quizzes as many times as you need to, and that's really important because the point here is that we learn. And if it means that you have to try several, think about a kid learning to ride a bike. If a kid tried 10 times and fell the first 9, but on the 10th attempt successfully rode the bike, well, you would not say he got a 10% and was a failure. You would say he learned to do the thing. And that's where I want us to be with anatomy. Let's ride the bike. So take as many tries as you need to get to where you're going to be successful. So I'm almost at 10 minutes, and I hate making any videos that are longer than 10 minutes. So I just want to say thank you for going on this journey with us, and I promise I'm going to do everything I can to help you be successful in Anatomy and Physiology 1 this fall. So thanks a lot. Go Bucks, drive trucks. We'll see you next week.